divers and people who spend a lot of time underwater, what's the creepiest, most unexplainable thing you've seen while in the depths? I've done a number of dives, and the strangest thing I ever saw was a large deep freezer with a heavy industrial chain wrapped around multiple times with about 5 cinder blocks attached. It was very rusted, and the deep freezer itself had to have been 30+ years old, probably more. This was about 90 feet deep just off Vancouver Island, Canada. The situation gave myself and the other divers the nooby-jeebies, logged the GPS and depth coordinates, and notified the police. We were able to find out what was inside, since one of the divers had friends with local police. 10 porcelain dolls. Edit, wording and typos. That's almost worse than finding out it was a body inside. The worst part for me is that I'm from Vancouver Island. Why did you bury your dolls? Haunted. They re-released them back into the world. Thanks guys. I'm a commercial diver and was once on a job cleaning a potable water reservoir. I'd been in other reservoirs before, but this was by far the biggest, at 40x 80 meters. To get in you had to open a hatch in the ground. The whole reservoir was underground, and climb down a ladder. The hatch was in a corner, so when you were in the far corner of the reservoir, it was completely pitch black, and you just have to hope your light doesn't go out. I was about halfway through a 3-hour dive when the batteries in my torch started going flat. I watched the beam get narrower and dimmer until it cut out completely. It's not a huge problem if you lose light, as you can just follow your umbilical back to the hatch. Just as I started walking back, some obnoxiously loud banging started somewhere in the reservoir. I was the only diver in there, so it both confused and scared the shit out of me. Needless to say, I ran back to the hatch as fast as I could. I ended up getting my torch changed out and doing another hour in the water, but didn't hear the noise again. I still have no idea what it was, but the combination of my torch going out and loud banging coming from somewhere gave me a hell of a fright. You went back in? Yeah, that's gonna be a no from me, dork. Yep, that's the job. Also, the slagging would have been immense if I hadn't. This ain't no place for a hero. Prepare to be slagged. I once went diving in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, where it is quite popular to see sharks. We begin diving, and we are quite far from the shore. There's a cool looking structure under us. We swim towards it to get a closer look, and I just start getting this cold feeling running through my body, and that's when a shark appeared, and I'd physically shat myself from fear. At least you didn't mentally shit yourself. Also, good that he didn't financially shit himself. It could have been bad. He could have socially shit himself, or even sexually shitting himself. If he politically shat himself, that would have been even worse. Not a diver, but I was on a boat just outside Plet when we encountered a group of seals out in the open water. I threw on a snorkel and hopped in the water while the seals were being curious around the boat. After a couple of minutes, the seals suddenly decided to all leave the area almost instantly. I had seen a copper shark earlier in the distance, but seals aren't afraid of something small like copper sharks. It took me about 3 seconds of floating alone to realize that this was one of the dumbest things I had ever done. The swim back to the boat was a very long 10 meters. Go on. We'll never find out, man. He dead af. I used to do a lot of night dives hunting for lobster off the coast of California. We'd start at 9 or 10 at night, so everything is obviously pitch black besides where we were pointing our lights. Every so often I'd get this unshakable feeling that something big was watching or following me. Sometimes I could quiet that part of my brain and continue with the dive. Other times I couldn't shake the feeling and would end the dive after a few minutes. It's a hard feeling to describe, but I guess I'd compare it to being in a haunted house, but 50 feet underwater in complete darkness. My mom used to dive a lot, Florida/Caribbean though, and she told me she used to get the same feeling on night dives sometimes. Not sure if it helps you or not, but she said on multiple occasions it turned out to be a barracuda hanging out over her shoulder using her light to see. Stressful but also calming at the same time. She was helping a buddy out. What are we looking for, boss? Neither creepy nor inexplicable, but once on a night dive I had a seal tag along and take advantage of my flashlight to do some night hunting. It was adorable and the poor fish didn't stand a chance. Also because the sea sausage was completely comfortable and taking advantage of me, they were all up in my business a bunch, which was awkward because as a rule you're not supposed to touch the animals for their safety and yours. In this case I finally decided it was totally okay to push their fat ass when they were in my way. I'll forever call seals a sea sausage because of this. That is sweet. Good god, this is hilarious. Lol. I once saw someone's escaped pet iguana swimming underwater at my local lake as a kid. That scared the shit out of me. Does that count? I live in a place with hundreds of iguanas and have never encountered one in the water. That must have scared the shit out of you. People dive in Flathead Lake near where I live. It is a dark murky lake. I have seen some large fish, like 5 feet long, around the edges of the lake. Divers have told me the really big fish, around 8 or 10 feet long, are smart and will not approach you too close, but will stay floating in the murk, just barely visible as ominous moving shadows. Edit, word/grammar. 10 feet long is 3 meters. That's a really big fish. Like shark big. Not discounting what they are saying, but what freshwater lake species grow to 8 to 10 feet? Sturgeon, catfish, and gar all get that big. Paddlefish are also in Montana, but I've only ever seen them in Fort Peck Lake. Then again, never really got out to Flathead all that often. The story isn't really mine, but from a friend of mine who does night dives. Here on the Brazilian coast there's a fish that resembles a shark, but it's considerably smaller, called caseo. You have to hunt these fuckers at night, because they're sort of nasty in the open, but easier to shoot when in their coves. So, my friend, let's call him Regis, is about 1 kilometer from the coast, diving near a reef. This thing is massive, and you have to go really deep to get to the slope with the coves. He is descending with a partner using cylinders for oxygen, and armed with a harpoon gun. The kind that shoots the harpoon and is reloadable, which is kinda heavy, making movement a tad slower. It's super dark at the deep during the night and much light will alert the fish they're hunting, so they have to use flashlights that are weaker. Regis said he had a feeling while descending. Everything was off. The smaller fish were absent. There were no turtles. Water was murkier than the usual. His partner stays back with a flashlight, and he goes closer to the reef. Regis searches for the coves, but can't find any with the caseo he wants, so it takes kinda long. At a certain point, he feels a shift in the water, like something big is swimming near him, just as the weak light from his partner waves frenetically and goes off. He doesn't know what to expect and goes on flight or fight mode, except he can't ascend too fast. He then tries to stay at the same level, but he has his back to the reef now. Then cocks the gun with a harpoon and waits. Waits and waits, but he doesn't see anything in the murky night sea water, not even his partner's light. That had to mean one of two things. Either his partner went out of batteries, or he saw something, and didn't want to attract its attention. Regis finally decides to start ascending very slowly. The weird feeling he had got worse, and turned into chills. As he's going up, he feels that same shift again, and does not hesitate to harpoon whatever it was, but missed. He said he never saw something so big underwater, and it swam fast. As Regis couldn't see much in the dark, he couldn't make out a proper shape, but saw that the thing went deeper near the reef. So he tries to go up as fast as possible, and makes out to the boat, where his partner helped him up. Turns out his partner warned him about it with the light, because he saw something abnormally big swimming in a dangerous distance, but couldn't get to him, because he felt watched by the thing. They both call it the blackfish, since they couldn't really see what it was. It's said to be as big as a man, about 1.7 meters. Regis lost the harpoon in the end. Both of them still dive at night. It's a no-no for me, though. Also, always dive in groups. Guys, if something happens, you gotta have someone to have your back. You never know. Edit, phrasing. Not a diver, but heard from old divers that worked for the Corps of Engineers that there's some huge catfish around the bottom of the dams, like the size of vans. My granddad used to be on a crew that dove in the Zambezi River Dam, hence Zimbabwe was Rhodesia, and he said there was 1 or 2 catfish in there that were so big they were eating some of the African workers semi-regularly, and would wait underneath the dam, where they were doing repairs. It got so bad and proved so difficult to hunt, that they ended up just pouring concrete into all the little caves underneath to either trap them, or force them to move away. Holy shit, I didn't know catfish could eat people. When I was a kid swimming in the lake at summer camp, I dove underwater, and I swear I saw someone in scuba gear hiding underneath the dock watching us. I told the lifeguard, but he wasn't able to find anyone. What if there was someone there, and they saw that you saw them, and so they swam away, to avoid getting caught by the lifeguard? I assume that is what happened, as a scuba perv is more likely than a scuba ghost. Got any similar experiences? Leave it in the comments below.